And with that, I am going to turn it over to Mark. Mark.
Thank you, Anne Marie. And thank you for helping us put this all together and making it flow smoothly, as I'm sure it will. So again, I'm very excited to welcome everyone today. It's exciting to see that we have, by the participant count, 63 people joining us. That's really tremendous, and we thank you for coming. What I would like to start with is introducing Jerry Kogut, the new incoming president of the board of directors, and she has a few words to say to start us off. So Jerry.
Hi, thank you very much, Mark. I'd like to welcome everyone here as well to the 24th annual meeting. So thank you for participating with us today. I think we have a very wonderful schedule of events with a wonderful speaker, very informative, and then also to hear from our staff, all the things that they've been doing, and especially from our community volunteers, the work that's been there. And of course, I love for the Successful Aging Awards that will be given out later. At this time, I would like to introduce our board members. I know there's a few of them here, others are working, unfortunately. So at this time, I would like, if Valerie is here, I'll say your names, but if you could wave. And I'm not touching any more buttons because I did just recently, and I minimized the screen to just like one person, so I'm not doing anything with buttons. So if you're here, if you could wave. Valerie Abrahamson. Jim Mattow, I know you're here. I can't see you because I'm not going to minimize. Mary McMillan is here. Teresa Volta, I think you're here. And Barbara Woods. And I'd also like to add two board members who have been very active with our board, is Terry Heck and Kip Tewksbury. And also at this time with our advisory council, which is representatives from the two counties and the areas that we work with, we have new co-chairs. So I would like to introduce to you Gloria Cristelli, who I know is present, and Elizabeth Spicer, or Beth. So with their titles as co-chair, and I thank them for going on into that role, but they are also board members for Senior Solutions. So congratulations to them. At this time, I would like to recognize and give a big thanks to Barbara Woods, our immediate past president, for all her leadership, especially through these times, not just with COVID, but changes and transitioning with we had for Senior Solutions, and of course with our new executive director, Mark. So I thank her for being the leader at that and ensuring that our board is with our mission and our vision for Senior Solutions, and any work that's presented to the board was done with quality and quick responses to what we needed to do. So I thank her for all that leadership. I don't know if she's here, but I wanted to also welcome another new executive director, would be Mary Hayden, who's the executive director for Vermont Association of Area Agencies on Aging. So I'm not sure if she's here, but if she were, I'd welcome her as her new role in that. So now I think I turn it over to Mark.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you. And yes, we welcome our new board members and thank our existing board members for all the work they do throughout the year. So I'm very excited to welcome you all to the Senior Solutions 24th Advisory Council Annual Meeting, as Jerry said. This is really a wonderful opportunity to celebrate the progress that we've made in the past year, and to tell you about some of our staff transitions and to look at what's new for the coming year. To start off, I really want to thank two people who have recently retired and for the time and talent they shared with our agency. I'm very excited to see that Edie Brown is with us today. After almost 19 years, we said goodbye in August to case manager and helpline specialist Edie. Edie will be remembered for her vast knowledge of services and resources, and for these little woolly sheep ornaments that she handed out every December. So thank you, Edie. We're so pleased that you are retiring to spend time with your family, and we thank you for all the years of service you gave to Senior Solutions. Also, last November, Carol Stamatakis announced her retirement. We celebrated Carol's tenure as the executive director and bid farewell to her in April. And I know that Carol is already busy with new projects in New Hampshire. Now let me tell you about some of the new members to our team. We've actually added several new members. So joining me at the senior leadership level are two new staff members. Sue Dana, our director of finance, came on board last December. She brings great enthusiasm, many years of accounting experience, and let me tell you, she brings a heartwarming laugh to the position that we all find infectious. In July, Lori Lintner came to Senior Solutions, bringing her management experience to the newly reorganized position of operations director. This is the role that I previously held, with modifications to respond really to the areas of growth, such as our robust volunteer services. And several other new staff at Senior Solutions. Tom Simmons is our new 3 Squares outreach specialist, having come to the agency in February. Mike Weiss came on board in July as a new case manager based in Springfield, taking Edie's role. Kevin Golden joined us also in July as the office manager and executive assistant. And we'll give a shout out to Kevin for all his work in coordinating the program for today and this meeting. Suzanne Burge joins Kevin in the front office. She started work in July as the receptionist. George Suntum started work in July as our volunteer specialist. And Mark Nolan joined us just last week as our new IT specialist. So you can see that we had, I think, 5 people join us all in the space of a week in July. So that was a busy week. And of course, as Jerry mentioned, our board of directors has seen some changes this year, with Barbara Wood stepping down after 2 years of service as the board chair. Barbara, we thank you so much for your time and your passion that you brought to that role. Barbara and I had weekly phone conversations that were very enlightening and really helped me get grounded in this role. So Barbara, I thank you again for your time and dedication to the board of directors. And Jerry, I look forward to working with you as the new board, and conversations with you as you take the reins, and moving the board forward and helping to guide this agency.
Thank you.
In addition to viewing this meeting online, we hope that you have taken a look at Senior Solutions' more robust online presence by way of our newly redesigned website, which launched earlier this month. The site changes allow for better promotion of the agency, an easier to navigate layout, and more information about our services and resources. If you haven't had a look at the site, be sure to check us out at seniorsolutionsvt.org. And there you see the landing page for our new Senior Solutions website. Speaking of changes, our operations continue to evolve as we adjust our work to deal with the COVID-19 and its Delta variant. This pandemic continues to highlight for us and for all agencies working with older and vulnerable populations the areas of increased need: food and housing insecurity, and social isolation, and caregiver burnout. among many other needs that are increased by this pandemic. We continue to look for new and creative ways to address these needs. And some of those I'll highlight in a little bit. Let me tell you a little bit about our ongoing work and the growth we're experiencing. Over the past several months, we've really seen a steady increase and a high volume of calls to our helpline. As you know, our helpline is Senior Solutions' doorway to the numerous services and resources within and outside our doors. Our case management teams in Brattleboro, Springfield, and Windsor have all been really busy with referrals for Choices for Care, case management, self-neglect, and Older Americans Act services. We have a veterans directed care program that has grown really exponentially over the past year. And we thank Rhonda Aberley, our case manager, for her dedication to that program. Recently, we were glad to welcome the Dam Diner as a new provider for Meals on Wheels in the Townsend area. And recruitment for our Tai Chi training programs has been terrifically successful, with 15 new volunteer leaders stepping up. I think that's double the number of leaders we had just 6 months ago. Earlier this month, October 4th, marked the end of my first 6 months as Executive Director of Senior Solutions. And I want to tell you, I couldn't be more proud of the steps we are taking to improve and grow this agency. I look forward to coming to work every day and working with the folks who are here, our case management teams, our helpline teams, our outreach, and nutrition and wellness. I couldn't be more proud of the work we do and the folks who are doing the work here at Senior Solutions. So let me highlight a few of the new programs and partnerships we've created. We recently launched the Putney 100% campaign, a joint program with Putney Cares, the Putney Food Bank, and Senior Solutions. The goal of the Putney 100% campaign, say that 3 times quickly, is to let every household in Putney know how to access food assistance through 3 squares, SNAP, and also fuel assistance. With the success of the Putney program, we are looking to see how we can replicate that model in other communities in the Senior Solutions service area. We are also excited to have received a renewal of our grant from the National Council on Aging. This new grant will enable us to hold office hours in the 6 senior centers in our service area in Bellows Falls, Brattleboro, Ludlow, Springfield, White River Junction, and Woodstock. Tracy Blanchard will fill these hours in the senior centers, assisting more people to apply for the benefits they may be eligible for. And one thing I heard recently in a meeting I was at is that there's really so much value in taking the services to the people. So this is a step where we've taken to get out into the communities to take the services to the people. Along those lines, we're also developing some memory cafe events throughout our service area. We had an initial meeting at the American Legion in Brattleboro this month and have other sites interested, including the Bugby Senior Center in White River Junction. We are working with host sites to arrange for locations for these gatherings, and we are helping to train group facilitators. And very exciting is our new volunteer caregiver respite program funded through the Serve Vermont AmeriCorps program. Training for volunteers began just yesterday, and we plan to begin matching the volunteers with caregivers who need a break from caregiving earlier next year. Our goal is to recruit and train 20 caregiver volunteers. And I'm sure you've seen in the news just the significance of the workforce shortage and caregivers paid paid caregivers certainly is a big area that there's a shortage that we've experienced, both for just respite and also for our Choices for Care programs. So being able to recruit volunteers through the AmeriCorps program is going to be a huge benefit to folks. And as you can see, none of these programs would succeed without the strong support and collaboration of our community partners. We really thank all our community partners with whom we work. We're just part of a larger network that supports folks who are aging in Vermont. Recently, I surveyed our leadership team to find out what progress they hope to make in the coming year. I'll conclude with a glimpse of some of our goals. We will work to further increase the number of calls to our helpline. And you saw our helpline number on our website, and you can see it there anytime. We will increase the promotion of our case management services, particularly referrals for Medicaid Choices for Care, our home and community-based case management program, and grow our case management capacity to serve more clients. We are taking steps to purchase a new data system, which is badly needed. That will help us better manage and report on the care we provide across the agency. And as we apply for grants, for instance, it will help us provide data to fill in the grant applications. With our new website and increased media outreach, we will continue to keep Senior Solutions featured in local news outlets and helping more people learn about the services we offer. And my goal for the coming year is to continue to raise Senior Solutions visibility through the exemplary services and resources we provide, our public relations, and collaboration with our many community partners, making our agency a household name throughout our service area. So please join us next year to see how we are doing. Now, what I'd like to do is introduce our keynote speaker. We have invited Lisa Lax from the University of Vermont Medical Center Neurology Memory Program to speak to us today about caregiving, in particular with regards to dementia and other related Alzheimer's and dementia related diseases. So it's my pleasure now to introduce our guest speaker, Lisa. Lisa is a licensed clinical social worker with a doctorate in education policy and leadership. She has more than 35 years of experience in social work, including as a psychotherapist, a program manager, an administrator, clinical supervisor, and educator. As a mental health counselor and social worker, she provides individual, family, and group mental health services to patients coping with dementia and to their family caregivers in the memory clinic at the University of Vermont Medical Center. Lisa, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here, and I want to acknowledge that you all probably have as much expertise in this area as I do, maybe a different perspective, vantage point. So some of what I'm going to be sharing today is probably going to be pretty familiar. So I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint. And start the slideshow.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to be talking about dementia and the family caregiver experience. And I'm going to focus a little bit on some background information on dementia and MCI to start off with. I'm going to really focus on the family caregiver experience and resources for patients and families. And hopefully I'll be able to share a little bit about a very exciting new resource at the memory program, which could be of interest and use to you all in your work. So as we know, the numbers of people with dementia are growing dramatically. And in the so these are statistics just for the Alzheimer's disease, which is the most common form of dementia. But there currently are an estimated 6.2 million Americans aged 65 and older with Alzheimer's disease at this point, and 72% of these folks are age 75 and older. 1 in 9 people aged 65 and older has Alzheimer's disease. And by 2050, the numbers of people who have Alzheimer's dementia is projected to double unless we have some medical breakthroughs. And in Vermont, we currently have about 13,000 people over the age of 65 who have Alzheimer's disease. And that means we have a lot of family caregivers. So what is dementia? Dementia is a progressive neurological disorder that causes the brain to shrink and brain cells neurons to die. The symptoms and progression of the disease are unique for every person. And it is distinguished from cognitive changes that are a normal part of aging. I think most of us, you who are older, worry if we are, forgetful that we're developing dementia. But there is normal age-related memory loss. So unfortunately, there is no cure. So I want to talk a little bit about just MCI, because you probably hear about mild cognitive impairment and, how is it the same as dementia or not? And it's often a precursor to dementia. A lot of folks will have symptoms of mild cognitive impairment before they develop a true dementia. Other people with MCI never develop dementia. So it is cognitive changes that are serious enough to be noticed by self and others, but they're not severe enough to interfere with most daily activities, and the person can be pretty independent with MCI, can affect memory and thinking. So it is technically not dementia, but the person may still need more assistance and family caregiving. So dementia is an umbrella term, and you see here under this umbrella are a number of different types of dementia, Alzheimer's disease being the most common. And the most common types of dementia that we see at the memory program are Alzheimer's disease, frontotemporal degeneration, Lewy body dementia, Parkinson's disease dementia, and vascular dementia, which is caused by stroke. And each of these dementias has unique characteristics, which I'm not going to go into today because we don't have the time for it. And also, I'm not a neurologist. I just also want to highlight that there are different stages because it is a progressive condition. So for Alzheimer's disease, this outlines what is early, middle, and late stages. Early being difficulty remembering names, words, where you put things, having some difficulty with procedural memory, may repeat themselves a lot. But usually someone in the early stages of dementia can live independently. They don't necessarily need to have a care partner. In the middle stages of dementia, the symptoms progress and a person's memory and ability to think, it becomes more impaired. Also, you might see the person withdraw from activity, especially social activity. You may see changes in mood, behavior, sleep patterns, personality, and the person will need more help with activities such as toileting, dressing, hygiene, and they will need assistance for other activities. In late stage, we see very severe symptoms that lead to the end of life. And this includes difficulty with communication, being unresponsive to the environment, having difficulty with some physical functioning, such as sitting, walking, and eventually swallowing. And people in the late stages of dementia are more vulnerable to infection and do require round-the-clock care. So I just want to say each person's experience with dementia is unique. And so not everyone has the same presentation. And that can be confusing. Some people might have a lot of problems with memory. Some people might have a lot of problems with speech. Other people might have problems with coordination and physical mobility. So it's just, there's no formula for this. So this is a quote from the researcher at the bottom. Who is a family caregiver? Family caregivers are individuals who provide extraordinary, uncompensated care on a long-term basis in a home care setting. It involves significant amounts of time and energy, requiring the performance of tasks that may be physically, emotionally, socially, and financially demanding. So why do we need people to be in this role in our society? And the reason is we just don't have enough resources for round-the-clock care for people. And also the services that we do have are extraordinarily expensive. And this requires families to step up. And of course, a lot of times family members, that's what they want to do. It's a meaningful and it's rewarding. So a lot of times people who are in a family caregiving role do not recognize themselves as family caregivers, and thus the rest of us might not recognize them as family caregivers. And so we have this list of questions. How do you recognize a family caregiver? And we look at things like who brings the person to appointments, who makes sure that the person is eating properly and that their laundry is done, who is helping their loved one with home projects, making sure that things are safe, who is managing the family finances, maybe monitoring bank accounts and helping them with legal plans, and who is part of the family member's health team. So these are the things that we look at when we're thinking about family caregiving. It's not just somebody who's at home, who's helping the person shower or bathe or helping them get dressed. There's a lot of different aspects of being a family caregiver. And you can be a family caregiver if you don't live in the same town as the person who has dementia. You can be a family caregiver from afar. And we are seeing more and more of that. So this is a video. Oops. Here we go. That is developed by the Reitman Center in Toronto, Ontario, that depicts a family caregiver's experience. So I'm going to play this. Hopefully it works.
I'm not going to be able to make it after all. Joan's having a bad day. I know. I'm sorry. Yeah, maybe another time. Okay, bye.
Family caregivers take on unpaid care for someone who is unable to care for themselves. Being a family caregiver is a risk factor for social isolation and burden. Caregivers tend to work alone and may not have time to maintain other relationships. In addition, people outside the family may withdraw, stop calling them, and therefore increase the isolation that caregivers feel.
I don't really think of myself as a caregiver. I'm a husband, looking after my wife who has Alzheimer's disease.
Caregivers who live with the person they are caring for are more likely to feel stressed and report that their physical and emotional health has suffered. Level of stress and impact on health increase as the number of hours of care provided go up.
Close out for you. Come on, we've got to go to the dentist. Stop it!
About half of family caregivers report feeling worried or anxious about their caregiving responsibilities. Their sleep is often disrupted, and they report feeling tired, irritable, and overwhelmed.
You look at that. That mall finally opened after all these years. Yeah, we should go, but maybe wait until the fanfare dies down. It won't be so crowded.
When am I going home?
You are home. We're home.
Caregivers often experience grief as the person they are caring for becomes increasingly unable to engage in relationships in the way they used to. This loss can be profound, but often goes unrecognized because, while the person is lost to the caregiver in many ways, he or she remains physically alive. When caregiving demands are high, caregivers aren't able to remain connected to friends and family or make a contribution to their community. They can become isolated and experience burden and depression. The Reitman Center's social innovation and training programs connect care.
Oops. Okay. So that video showed some of the challenges that our family caregivers experience. You know, what we saw in that video, especially, we saw stress. We saw the difficulty with managing difficult behaviors, such as resistance to care, anger. But there are other challenges. There's increased responsibility, of course, with being a family caregiver. There's probably more problems with finances and resources to support the care. There's not enough time to do everything. There may be more safety concerns as the person's symptoms develop, and managing difficult behaviors. Planning for the future is a big concern and challenge. Then there's conflict with other roles, which was mentioned by the narrator. And then there's changes in family relationships with the potential for increased conflict among family members who may not agree on the right approach. And then, as the narrator highlighted, family caregivers are at increased risk for health problems and increased risk for mental health problems such as depression. And there's a big, big factor is social isolation and disenfranchised grief, loss, and other psychological adjustments. And this is grief that may not be recognized by society, and they may feel alone and unvalidated in their experience. So we also like to look at the unique issues for different kinds of caregivers. So, so we see in our practice people who are spouse partners. We also see adult children caregivers. And each population has, some unique needs and challenges. So for spouse partners, if they're working, they have a decreased capacity for work. They might be forced to retire before they're ready. And if they are still working, they definitely need to work reduced hours. And obviously we know that's stressful. And that, of course, with reduced employment, there's reduced income and there's more financial stress. And then there's relationship stress. The person who has dementia is no longer able to participate in decision-making. And a lot of our spouse partner family givers talk about feeling like they've lost their husband or their wife. They have to handle everything alone. And also there may be some confusion and discomfort about what kind of affection and physical intimacy is appropriate. And that may be a loss for them. And also the person who has dementia may be confused about that. And then, of course, most people, as they approach retirement, they have dreams for retirement. They may want to travel. They may have dreams of relocating or volunteering, and their plans get interrupted. So for adult children, and I include grandchildren, nieces and nephews in this category too, there can be a shift in generational expectations of the person with dementia. Often adult children have a lot of ambivalence about the responsibility of caring for an older family member, and they may not want to recognize what's happening at first. And there may be disagreement with their siblings about the best way to approach care. And then, like the spouse partners, they experience grief and ambiguous loss related to losing support and guidance from their family member. And they have to balance multiple roles and responsibilities. Often adult children have their own children and they are working. They're usually in midlife and are fully engaged in work. And also there may be a shift in where they need to live. They might need to move in with their relative, or they have to provide care from a separate home. And what's not added here is, or they might have to have their older adult family member move in with them. This creates quite a few challenges for all. And then we know that not everybody has a perfect childhood and or a perfect relationship with their loved one. And if there was past child abuse and neglect, or not a very strong connection, and you're called upon to do caregiving, that has a whole host of challenges that the person needs to work through. So these are an array of symptoms that can make behavioral and psychological symptoms for the person with dementia that can make caregiving very challenging. And it's important to point out that the person with dementia does not have any control over these symptoms. In the past, they might have been a person who was easily angered or had some issues, and you might expect that they could do something about it. But with dementia, it's not up to the person who has it. It then becomes the responsibility of the caregiver to figure out a way to respond to these very difficult kinds of symptoms. And it's also important to point out that not every patient has all of these or even most of these, but having some of these are very common. So I'm not going to read all of these off the list because you've probably been looking at them and it would take quite a bit of time. But as you can see, there are some pretty intense symptoms, and we saw some of them in the video. So not surprisingly, family caregivers have a high incidence of psychological distress and stress, and they may not feel like they're very effective, and they may not feel like their quality of life is very good, and they will have more problems with physical health, as we mentioned. And what we know is the research shows that success depends on somebody's communication skills for dementia care, their coping abilities and strategies, and appropriate expectations and understanding of disease progression. So on the square to the right, we see that more than 11 million Americans provide unpaid care for people with Alzheimer's or other dementias. And 11 million people is about the population of Ohio or Georgia. That's a lot of people doing this. So I don't want to just say it's a horrible experience being a family caregiver, because it's not. It can be very meaningful. And there's current research is, delving into this. It can often be a joyful, meaningful experience for family members. It can enrich a relationship, ironically, and be very rewarding. That doesn't erase the challenges, however. So this next video provides an example of that. And it's called Nadia and Her Mama, Finding Meaning. And it's, again, it's from Canada. The Reitman Center graciously agreed to let us show these videos.
there were a lot of times when I think about it now that when I spoke to her, and it was a good conversation, it was mishmash and everything, but I always thought she knew who I was. So there were some moments when I could have a whole afternoon with her thinking she knew me, and she didn't. And I wouldn't be aware of that until she said about my second tattoo that her mom wouldn't have allowed her to do that. I must have a cool mom. My mom would never use that kind of language before, you know. I would get a tattoo. I thought I would get a tattoo after my mom passed. I honestly don't know why that day when I left, seeing her, that I went into the tattoo shop. And that's when I got my first one. And I got 3 forget-me-nots for the disease, to acknowledge the disease, and a bird just for her. But a bird also is freedom. So there's no freedom in dementia, but it, for me, reflected her. My acceptance, my acknowledgement that she had that disease. And then, of course, this fear strikes me. You know, I'm in my 60s, for God's sake. Why should I be fearful of what my mama is going to say about a tattoo? My mama who has dementia, right? But yet I thought, oh God, I don't know how I'm going to deal with it. But I showed it to her, and she fell in love. She just loved it. And I put my foot up so she could see it better. And she kissed it. And it was just something I never thought I would see that, you know, whether, you know, I don't know any mom who would kiss her kid's tattoo when they get it anyways, you know, but it was just such an acceptance. It made me feel every choice I.
So I'm gonna just move on. I think we can see from that video that, you know, this caregiver, Nadia, experienced something different with her mother that she hadn't in the past. And it was obviously see the love and caring in that relationship and in those photos. So what do family caregivers need? And this, by the way, this doesn't come from formal research. It comes from my experience and my colleagues' experiences at the memory program. But we do see this, you know, we do see this, of course, in the literature too. They, first and foremost, they need skills and knowledge regarding dementia and caregiving. They need to know what they're dealing with. And they need skills for solving problems, very difficult problems often. And of course, practical help and support is really important. And having help with chores, having help with meals and transportation. Those things are not insignificant. Financial support and resource information is critical. This is often new territory for family members, and They don't know what the system is, and they don't know what the resources are. And then respite. This is a 24/7 job, and you can't keep doing it unless you have a break. So that's really important. And then to be heard and understood. And that's what we all need when we're going through a difficult experience. Emotional support and compassion. So I'm just going to say, you guys are the heroes, are our heroes, area agencies on aging and senior solutions. You are integral to our current system of care to support caregivers, and you're often the first stop for caregiver support services. I don't need to tell you what your agency does. It's a lot. I think I heard some things earlier today that I didn't know that you did. Tai Chi, that's awesome. Caregivers would probably love to do some Tai Chi. So thank you very much for what you do. You're a very important resource. And I know at the memory program, we are very glad that you're there, because we don't have time to do all the kind of case management work and practical support that family members need. So thank you for everything that you do. And of course, there are other resources, and the Alzheimer's Association, the Association for FTD, Lewy Body Dementia, Area Agency on Aging, the helpline. The social work services and primary care providers office can be of support. Dale can. You probably all are very familiar with the Vermont Resource Guide for Older Adults. This is a wealth of information. One resource that you may not know about is the Family Caregivers Alliance. That is a national resource. They have an excellent website. They have a helpline. Oh, and by the way, the Alzheimer's Association also has a helpline. And so if somebody is dealing with a particularly difficult challenge, they will address problems, and they have trained staffing 24/7. And then we know that the VA is very helpful for family members who have been in service. And then professional home care companies, faith organizations, local senior centers. So as I'm wrapping up, I want to talk a little bit about a very exciting resource that we've been working on in the last 4 years at the memory program. And these are groups that are based on research. So we were very fortunate to find this resource and receive training from the Reitman Center in Toronto, Ontario. They've received a very large grant, from a very wealthy few people who had family members with dementia, and they used this grant to do some research on what's most helpful for people with dementia. And they focused on caregiving because at this point in time, the treatment for dementia is basically caregiving. We don't have medication that stops the disease. We have medication that slows it down, but really this is what the treatment is. And so this is where they put their energy. And the two groups that they developed and that are evidence-based and show that there's progress or positive changes for caregivers are the TEACH group and the CARES program. The TEACH group is a group for people who are new to caregiving, and the CARES program is a more intensive skills-based group. And the philosophy is active support of caregivers is a necessary component of care of individuals with dementia. So TEACH is a 4-weekly session, 90-minute group that focuses on skills training. It's for any family caregiver who's new to caregiving for dementia. And we use a modified problem-solving approach. And each week there's a theme: self-care, resource and systems navigation, change in relationships, and planning for the future. The CARES program, as I mentioned, is much more intensive. It stands for Coaching, Advocacy, Respite, education, relationship, and simulation. This is an 8-week group. It's no more than 6 members. It's considered a psychotherapy group for those caring for a person with advanced disease. We have separate groups, one for spouse partners and one for adult children. And the elements of this group are dementia education that occurs naturally throughout the course of the 8 weeks. And then we teach a form of problem-solving therapy, which is a cognitive behavioral therapy approach that helps people develop the skills for solving difficult problems on their own. And then we also use simulation, which is a type of role playing. And we have standardized patients who are part of the group and play the part of a person with dementia so that people can practice different ways of communicating. And then we have follow-up monthly sessions after people complete the group. And these are the goals: to enhance skills, improve coping and problem solving, improve emotional regulation for the caregiver, enhance mastery and self-efficacy, reduce depression and anxiety, and improve social interaction and support. And we are now in the process of expanding these groups. We are in the process of becoming master trainers here in the US. We are hoping to train people throughout Vermont and in neighboring states. So you probably will be hearing more about this. But one of the benefits of the pandemic is that we've learned to offer these groups online. So even people in your area could be referred to us to participate in these groups. So you can contact the memory program. You can contact either Lori or me. And that's our phone number, 802-847-1111. The memory program needs an easy phone number. So that's it. I am open to questions. Any questions? Anne Marie, you were gonna.
I'm looking right now. One of the questions that did come up was, will you make your slides available, particularly with the resources that were
Yes,
there?
I'll just have to figure out a way to do that. I don't want to send the whole PowerPoint presentation. So Anna Marie, if you can
I can help
me
you.
figure
Yeah.
that out. Yes, I can provide, like, you know, the printout, you know. Okay, yeah, happy to do
Yeah.
that.
We can do that. Questions about this wonderful presentation?
I'm reading the question from Aaron. Can caregivers of individuals who are not patients participate? Yes. You know, at this point, we have capacity. At some point, I mean, if we get inundated requests, we might not have the capacity to do that. But we do. Yes, you can make referrals. People can self-refer. They can get service at the memory program under their own name. They can't get it under their loved one's name unless their loved one is a patient at the memory program. But someone can call the social work program up and ask for an appointment and register under their own name and use their own health insurance.
My question is whether whether the people who are in the extended program end up being a support system for each other outside of your meetings.
Well, I think that has happened naturally.
Yeah.
You know, during the group itself, we discourage outside involvement because it creates problems, therapeutic problems in a group if people do that. But once they complete the group, if they've formed a connection, yes, they are welcome to support one another. One of the reasons we offer the maintenance group for the Carers program is because that you know, caregivers don't have a lot of time. So having this once a month time that they know is there and that they can attend on Zoom is often more practical than, you know, making connections outside.
So I'm wondering how long you've been running these groups, and probably a question you get a lot is what have been the changes since the pandemic and caregiver needs and maybe referrals or just.
Well, since the pandemic, our referrals have gone way up.
Sure.
And and some of the things that we might have been advising people to do in the past, such as, so both caregivers and people with dementia need social contact. And as we all know, that's been extremely difficult during the pandemic. And we do see that that has had an impact on the disease and on caregivers. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you see the
So-
next question?
I kind of saw it out of the corner of my eye.
What
Yeah.
resources are available to provide the much needed respite for caregivers?
Well, informally, other family members, and we encourage family caregivers to call upon other members in the family who may not be active in caregiving. And we will encourage that through family meetings if somebody needs support. But your agency actually has been a very important resource. And the other area agencies on aging are, because you have respite grants that help people afford paid caregiving services that they might not otherwise be able to afford. Is it enough? We all know probably not. We encourage people, if they don't have adequate funds, to apply for Choices for Care, and that might enable them to get some paid caregiving services at home. For people who, even people with a lot of financial resources, struggle with this area. There is a shortage in the workforce, and it's a problem. We don't have enough. So
Okay,
thanks for that question.
Two more questions, and then I'm going to call time on it. Are there any special considerations re the experience of caregivers when the patient is having to transition from a home environment to an institutional
So
environment?
before we go to that, I just want to highlight that Janet Nunziata just said that there is a state. I don't know if we want to enable Janet to speak.
She can unmute herself and talk.
Lisa, there's not much more I can say about it. Cove convened a group to form a respite care coalition. We have to have a statewide group in order to apply for certain respite funds. So it's in the early stages, but hopefully it will continue to move forward. And that will offer another resource for families.
Okay, thank you, Janet.
Okay, home environment to institutional setting.
What was the question? That's a big
Are there
one.
any special considerations re the experience of caregivers when the patient is having to transition from a home environment to an institutional environment?
Absolutely, there certainly is. First of all, it can be tricky to, I think each situation is unique, and a caregiver really needs to be thoughtful about how to introduce it to the patient or their family member with dementia. It's something that we spend a good amount of time on in our counseling with family members. I don't know if I can do that question justice in just a couple of minutes, but yes, there are special considerations, and that's where finding somebody with some expertise can be helpful. Often the residential programs, they have some knowledge and experience that can be very valuable.
Okay,
And also I just want to say that if somebody's loved one goes into residential care, it does not mean that their caregiving stops. It just is a different kind of caregiving. And also there's usually a tremendous amount of grief and other emotions that go with that.
Okay, last question, short answer. Has this program been offered for clergy to learn caregiving skills?
It's this program is designed for family caregivers and not for professionals.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you, Lisa. I'm going to turn it over to Mark.
thank you. It's great to be here.
Yes, thank you so much, Lisa. That's very striking when you think about all the responsibilities and the impact on caregivers and the extent of care that they're providing. Really, your presentation really struck home, particularly for me. I'll tell you that my brothers spent the last couple of years caring for my parents. So it really raises my awareness of all the impact that it had on him and certainly my role in that. And how that's true for so many of the people that we see that seek our services. So really appreciate your talk today.
Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So we want to hear next. Yes? Someone say something? We want to hear next from some of our volunteers. Speaking of visiting and respite and supporting caregivers, we have 3 volunteer speakers who we want to hear from now. And I'll just start off by introducing Walter Stover, who's one of our Vet to Vet program volunteers. And if you're not aware of that, this is a program that matches up veterans with other veterans. And it's really a significant asset to folks. Veterans often really, as many of us have heard for so long, that there's a particular bond between veterans. So this program has been a terrific success for the veteran volunteers and the people they meet with. So Walter, we'd love to hear some of your experience.
Good morning. I'm Walter Stover.
Uh-oh.
Live in Jamaica, Vermont. Hear me?
You're breaking up a little bit, but keep going.
Okay. I'm new to the program. I've been retired for quite a few years. I thought there was something missing in my life, as far as giving. I just felt like I had to give something back or do something. And then things changed in my life. In late 18, my daughter died, and my brother had died right after that. And I really started thinking I have to do something, and it would take maybe some of the pain that I was feeling and maybe regenerate that or do something that I could give to somebody else. I really didn't know how to go about it. I called my local doctor. I talked to him, a former doctor, and he put me up, told me to talk to a couple of people that were in the local town clerk offices and a minister. Anyway, I did get some response, and I got calls, and I was helping people, a ride here and there. But the thing that really changed all that was when my wife saw an article in early 2019 from Hal Lear, who was from the American Legion Brattleboro, talking about a new program called Vet to Vet for veterans. And it was going to be started with an association with Senior Solutions. So I called Hal, got in touch with them, made arrangements, and then we had our first training meeting. I think it was in April 9th down at the American Legion. It was with Vicky Mastriani with Senior Solutions. I think it was April 9th I had written down. We had our first training meeting. And then on May 1st, she introduced me with my first client or vet. And he was a paraplegic, had a lot of problems. And it was a real learning experience for me because I didn't know how to handle certain situations. And the good thing about working with Senior Solutions, and especially at that time, it was mostly with Vicky, was that she was always there to give me help, to try, and if she didn't know, she would find out for me, and she would get whatever I needed. I had a problem with transportation. I made a couple of mistakes. I remember he wanted to go fishing, and he lives on the second floor. He has a wheelchair. I had to get the wheel. I had to bring all his gear down, maybe 2 or 3 trips, get him into my truck, which actually had a little lift in it. And the other thing was get his wheelchair in the back of my truck. And that was a problem for me. I mean, it was just the idea of, I had a ramp that I could use for my lawnmower. And I tried to get him to go up the ramp, and the wheels were getting stuck in the base, and he wasn't going anyplace. And like a fool, I said, okay, let me try this. So I get in there, never worked the wheelchair. And he told me, this is high speed and low speed. I put it in high speed, and I go up the ramp and did a flip. And I'm thinking, wow, what if it was him in there? I mean, it was really a stupid mistake. It was just ignorance on my part, not knowing how to deal with this kind of a situation. Well, after I wasn't hurt. It was just my pride. I rolled over, and then with some maintenance guy was there and saw me. He said, well, we have to figure another thing. And I said, you know what? Maybe we can just put it in slow, the electricity or the battery in low gear, and I could walk it up the ramp. Well, it was a learning experience, but it could have been really, I mean, what if I got him in there, and then how am I going to get him down? That was the problem. So these are things you have to learn. And Senior Solutions, with the ramp and suggestions and finding stuff for me. Yes, it was a lot of learning, trying to get a person to a site where you could get them mobile and get them to a point where you could safely take them fishing. You just forgot your own fishing stuff. You just had to deal with him casting, helping sometimes, because I had to learn, and I had to find out how to do things. But the thing was, I was helping somebody. It made me feel good. Later on, I had another vet, which I'm working. Things were great. We were going out fishing, hiking all the time. I was able to help him at his home site there, working with he had a Kubota, and we could do work. I didn't do the work, but at least it was a great experience going out to luncheons and then walking, hiking. But unfortunately, in the last few months, he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and he's gradually gotten worse to the point where he was admitted to a home. The problems I see there was that he changed a lot, naturally, and I'm just trying to learn some of these symptoms, and it's just there again. I'm starting the Respite program because I want to learn more how to deal with this type of situation. I know that he gets irritable sometimes if I go to touch him or guide him. He had a stroke, he lost sight in one eye. So when I take him out where he likes to go looking in the store, he's bumping into stuff. I try to guide him, he gets upset. So I have to learn how to deal with this, and it's frustrating for me, but I'm gaining on it. I learned also that I have to be patient. I have to be able to I have to get his attention and have him focus on me and get him in a mood that he's not going to be, aggressive or try to make a scene out of it. So I have to try to do more myself, and I'm learning. But this is where things have really, I mean, the experience has been great for me. I forget all my problems. I mean, it's rewarding working with Senior Solutions, working with the vet-to-vet program. It's just, I mean, I'm just a beginner compared. It's been 2 years now that I've gotten into this. A lot of volunteers I've seen, you hear them at the meetings and they're talking. They've been doing it for umpteen years. They have 10 or 20 people are working with at a time. They're really giving of themselves. It's just a wonderful thing. And the programs that are available through Senior Solutions, I can see where I like was really, I appreciated that for the different nursing staff and different people that had experiences that would give me experience in handling people myself. I'm looking forward to that again, but the respite program now is going to help me. I'm not going to go on and on with, I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful to Senior Solutions. I'm grateful to the people that there's a lot of people involved in here, but Vicki was the first one I got involved with as far as helping me get into this. She's always there for me. And Valerie Stewart, and now Gary Shaw is involved with getting more, trying to increase the veterans programs, for vet to vet. So I'm thankful, and I think God works as modern day miracles through organizations like Senior Solutions, and especially all those volunteers that are really been there for years and years, and of so many people that they've helped. I think it's just, it's just giving what they had, or giving everything to them, to their needs, is just something it's overwhelming sometimes to think about. And I appreciate being with a group like that. That's all I want to say.
Thank you.
But I thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Thank you. We appreciate all that you are bringing to this. Everybody's clapping.
Thank you.
I want to move on to Elizabeth Cole, who is with our Senior Companion Program. Is Elizabeth with us today?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Can you say a few words about your experience?
Well, I'm not sure I could top Walter. That was a good one. My family had many medical issues, so I've been a caretaker for many years. And after my husband, who had Parkinson's, passed away, I knew I had to have a purpose in life. And I have met some of the most wonderful people, either from Senior Solutions to work with, or the people I've been visiting. From people that have dementia, as well as people who don't. I do see one man who was in the service, and he calls his rollator his Jeep. And he has his scissors, his screwdrivers, everything right around him, so that he can still be as independent. He's only 95, but he's still, he's wonderful to visit. I just have someone new, really anticipating for next year. She has, it doesn't seem to be Alzheimer's to me, but she has some dementia, and it gives the husband a chance, by my being there, to do the laundry. It's a summer home, it's a camp on a private lake, and then he has to go into town to go to the laundromat. So it's a time where he can get away, but he doesn't have to worry that she's going to fall, or not just sitting there watching television. So we do dominoes. And I met some people who did have to go into a home. And that is a big adjustment for the family. And I've met some great people, and it's also been very helpful to me, not only to give me a purpose that I'm helping somebody, but the son-in-law of one of the people I visit, he's now paid, of course. I pay him to do the jobs that I can no longer lift or do for myself. And it's been a big help to me. So I've learned the area and more people that have helped me, and I hope I'm helping them.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all that work that you've done. And again, reaching out to those folks, spending time with them, giving, as we heard earlier, much needed respite. So someone can just go and do their laundry. That's so important. So thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
And we have one more, let's see, one more speaker here. It's Mike Wagner. Mike, are you still here?
I'm here. Can everyone hear me okay? There I am. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I am thankful I was asked to say a few words. Like Mark and Elizabeth, I guess we have some similar experiences. I'll be brief. Like Mark, I retired 3 years ago. I was living in Northern Kentucky. My career was in logistics. It took me around the country to various cities. We ended up, Trish and I, in Northern Kentucky, working out of the Cincinnati airport. I worked in logistics, warehousing, trucking, air and rail transportation. So when I retired, like Mark, I knew I wanted to do something more. I wanted to give something back. I feel my life, I've been blessed overall, and just felt like I wanted to give something back, but I didn't know what to do or how to begin finding something to do. Coincidentally, my wife volunteered at an organization called SCORE, which helps entrepreneurs either start up businesses or enhance current businesses. Through SCORE, one of her contacts, I met a gentleman who was running a food distribution faith-based organization in Northern Kentucky called Master Provisions. So I said, what the heck, talked with him and started volunteering 2 days a week in the warehouse and saw just what a great organization it was and the need for so many people and families in that area. It was very rewarding. I saw the need. It made me feel real good. Fast forward to Vermont. So we've decided to retire in Vermont for family reasons. And I immediately began to look for something to do in the volunteer world and came across Senior Solutions. I believe through an ad I saw in the paper, the local paper, sent an email to Valerie. She got back to me. I filled out the paperwork. And that brings me to my current circumstances. So in the last several months, what I've been doing mostly is providing transportation. And it's been interesting. I've taken people to the grocery store, the doctor, the hospital. I took one lady to the cemetery, which was interesting. And what I'm seeing, just like Walter and Elizabeth, the people that I'm running into, they're great people. There's a lot of loneliness I see, and when you spend time with them in a car or for a few minutes in their home, picking them up, dropping them off, they really seem to enjoy the conversation. I think I can be pretty lighthearted and have a sense of humor, and we try to make a light time of it. In some cases, they just want to tell you their story. I've learned a lot of personal circumstances for some of these folks, but it's all been very, very good. I've enjoyed it. Most recently, I got involved with a couple, an elderly couple who are having trouble organizing and paying their bills. So working with their caseworker, Malcolm, I've made a couple of visits there, and we're making sure their bills get organized and paid timely. They're a great couple. They are struggling, and Vicki could speak more to this. I believe they've been diagnosed with dementia. They certainly are having some of the symptoms that Lisa presented to us in her presentation. So they're a great couple. They're lovely. I love spending time with them, and they need help. So that's been rewarding as well. I've also volunteered for the Respite program. Hope to learn, like Walter, I hope to learn a lot more and maybe can contribute a lot, some more going forward. While I'm on, I want to thank Vicki and Patty, whom I work with mostly through the things that I do for the organization. And I want to say that this is my second organization being affiliated with for volunteering, and it's wonderful. And I'm still learning. I mean, the presentation today was great. The annual meeting so far, Mark and team has been wonderful. I'm learning more and more about the resources of Senior Solutions. So I want to continue on and hope to do more to help the organization and the folks in my new neighbors in Vermont. So with that, I'll be quiet. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Mike. It's really, our volunteer corps really does so much work. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a couple minutes. So we thank all of you for your dedication and just all the important visits that you make and errands you run, particularly during COVID. It was such a needed service, and as we heard from Lisa, there is so much need for respite and just help people combat social isolation. So thank you all for all that volunteer work. Given that we're running a little over time and that I gave a few program updates, I'm gonna throw my program directors a curveball, and maybe they'll be relieved and say that we're gonna skip the agency updates and jump right to the Successful Aging Awards. And so what I'd like to do is I'm gonna share this, the reading about these folks with Jerry. And every year we give awards to folks that are nominated for basically for really some special contributions they make to their communities and to other folks in the area, and folks, so they just stand out, and that people get nominated for this award. And this year, what we want to do is we got these ornaments from Danforth Pewter, and what they are snowflakes from the Snowflake Bentley collection. And so we have these snowflakes for each of our Successful Aging nominees. What I'd like to do is start with Beau Horvath from Marlborough. Beau was nominated by members of the veteran community in Marlborough. He was a World War II naval veteran who served on the USS Iowa battleship, which endured 2 strikes from a Japanese shore battery. At 94 years young, he maintains his independence. He drives himself on errands and often cooks for himself, and he serves as an inspiration to other older Vermonters and other older veterans in Vermont. So congratulations, Beau, for your contributions to Vermont and to Marlborough, and showing us how to age successfully. Jerry. Are you there, Jerry?
Jerry's muted.
I'm set. Thank you. Larry Shirk was from Springfield. Larry was nominated by the Springfield Town Library and its patrons, who are tremendously grateful for Larry going above and beyond on his deliveries to homebound patrons in the Springfield area. He is known for his dedication and devotion, especially during COVID. For many years, Larry's consistent presence has been essential for library patrons who cannot physically visit the library anymore. They rave to library staff about how much they appreciate Larry, his kindness, and his good humor. They look forward to his every visit. So congratulations to Larry for that recognition.
Our next nominee is Jean Bortmann from Marlborough. Jean is renowned in her generosity and kindness within the Marlborough community, where she and her husband own the Whetstone Inn. It appears she volunteers in one way or another with almost every organization in Marlborough, including cooking breakfast for the Marlborough Fair Committee and providing treats for the Marlborough Elementary School Christmas carolers. What I've heard is that her chocolate cake is world famous. She has also served on numerous boards, from the local school board to the Marlborough Development Review Board to the board of the Marlborough Historical Society, just to name a few. Congratulations, Jean.
Thank you.
This recognition is for Jill Pond from Chester, Andover. Jill was dedicated years of her life to volunteering in the Chester, Andover community, including at her church and various community dinners. She has supported the arts of Green Mountain Union High School in helping with costumes and makeup, and sometimes in singing and dancing when she's needed. She has also performed with the Chester and Springfield community players. Jill has been an integral part of the annual Warm Hands, Warm Hearts coat and blanket drives in Chester. Thank you, Jill, for all you do.
Thomas French of Brattleboro. In 2015, Tom retired from practicing law in the Brattleboro area. Well, I guess perhaps retired isn't quite the right word. He applied his 49 years of legal experience to advocate for the needs of veterans in his community. Through his efforts, Tom ensured that 18 veterans, all elders, who incurred service-related injuries, recovered the benefits to which they were entitled. Wait for it, a sum of over $2 million to date. So Tom, congratulations to you for that very important work and for successful aging in Brattleboro.
All right, I'd like to recognize Jean Danilo from Townsend. Jean has been a valued member of the volunteer team at the Townsend Public Library since 2008, where she is known for her enthusiastic demeanor and the great care she shows welcoming patrons, promoting the library's many services, and ensuring the needs of all patrons are met. She has organized her community's Red Cross blood drive for 10 years and volunteered for Grace Cottage Hospital and the Grace Cottage Foundation in a myriad of ways, including special events, office projects, and welcoming visitors and patients alike. So I extend a very well thank you to Jean.
And we have Arline Rotman of Norwich. Arline's ongoing dedication to the town of Norwich is commendable. She served on the Development Review Board of Norwich for over 15 years and as a Justice of the Peace for 8 years, in addition to many committees and other forms of community involvement. Arline is known as a voice of calm reason and a constant source of knowledge about her community. Thank you, Arline.
We have Lyndall Bow from Brookline. Lyndall was a teacher for many years, and after moving to Vermont, she ran for and was elected to the board of directors for the Leland and Gray Union High School and represented from Brookline. Lyndall represents youth offenders in the court system as a special advocate and even took one youth into her home to further help him. Lynn has worked with the NAACP and has written articles advocating for the fair treatment to all. So thank you very much for all that service.
And finally, we have Claudette Hollenbeck from Wilmington. After serving as a social worker for many years, Claudette now writes the Aging in Place column for the Deerfield Valley News. She is known as a leader within Habitat for Humanity and the National Alliance on Mental Illness. where she has helped countless people understand and thrive while dealing with mental illness. Claudette also participates in her local hospice and the Wilmington Committee on Senior Housing. Thank you so much, Claudette, and thank all of our successful aging nominees for everything you do in your communities. Now's the time. Yes, someone speaking? Now's the time when we move to our volunteer recognition. And in general, so we've heard from some of our volunteers, and now we want to take a few minutes just to talk about the larger volunteer program here at Senior Solutions and recognize all the work they do. And I believe we have a little video that's going to play while I talk about our volunteers. Here we go. I'm going to have a sip of tea. We currently have more than 60 volunteer visitors who've provided more than 2,700 hours of service this past year, reaching more than 140 older Vermonters. Without our volunteer visitors, Senior Solutions would need to spend more than $20,000 annually to hire part-time staff, and that would be at minimum wage with no benefits. However, this would still not fully cover the value our volunteers bring. Their expertise, their experience, and generous compassion are truly outstanding. Here are just a few examples of the care they provide as they go the extra mile. An older gentleman who lives by himself had a tree fall on his roof and across his driveway. One of our volunteers, who was scheduled to take the man grocery shopping, took it upon himself to bring his chainsaw, cut up the tree, and remove it. Afterwards, he then took the man to do his grocery shopping. Taking recipients shopping is so much more than a shopping trip. Sometimes it involves visiting several stores, carrying heavy grocery bags, helping recipients select grocery items, and making special trips for pet food. A few of our volunteers have spent sometimes between 4 to 6 hours on one shopping trip. One of our volunteers drove 260 miles round trip to deliver food boxes to 4 people at different addresses. Another client called saying she had no food and no money or transportation to get food. Because it was after hours, Senior Solutions could not issue a food voucher. We contacted a volunteer who lives in the woman's area who promptly made a pot of spaghetti, got a few items from her pantry, and brought dinner over to the woman. The next day, she and her husband dropped off groceries to tide the woman over. Some of our volunteers who take people to have cataract or dental surgery must wait for up to 2 hours during the appointment. Nonetheless, they do so without hesitation. Another volunteer provides rides to 6 or 7 older Vermonters each week, sometimes taking 2 people at a time to do errands. During the pandemic, a single volunteer made over 1,000 masks to help ensure that the safety of our volunteers and staff. We have several professional volunteers who share their skills with our regular volunteers on subjects including nutrition, visual impairment, and self-care. When talking about volunteers, we have to thank the many folks who deliver Meals on Wheels meals throughout our service area all year long. Last year, throughout our service area, wait for it, 160,502 meals were prepared and delivered. We deeply appreciate all the effort and hours and caring that goes into getting these meals to the folks who need them. And it's not just individuals who extend themselves to assist older Vermonters in our area. Local businesses often go out of their way to help out as well. Here are a couple of examples. Here's an email I received from Vicky last summer regarding a woman who needed food. The email says, just wanted you to know that the Chester Market put together a food basket that included the items they had on their list and many other items complimentary of the market. The meals are homemade and much more nutritional than TV dinners. Garrison, the store owner, said that if there are items in the basket that the couple wasn't interested in, to just share them with the other residents. And another email regarding a woman who is unable to care for her lawn says, Summit Solutions Property Management in Ludlow offered to come by next Tuesday to cut her lawn at no cost. So we have so many volunteers to thank, individuals and businesses who contribute to support the older Vermonters in our area. And I also want to just give a little shout out. Although she is not on our volunteer roster, I want to give a sincere thanks to Jennifer Fitzgerald, the Wilmington town nurse. Her picture is on today's program. Jennifer is a tireless advocate for older Vermonters in her area of the state. So Jennifer, we thank you for all your tireless work. And we thank all of you for joining us today. It's an exciting time for Senior Solutions. We're very excited to look ahead to the coming year and as I mentioned, our Respite grant program that you heard some of our volunteers talk about, and hopefully will help a few of the folks of the home caregivers that we heard Lisa talk about as well. We appreciate all our community partners who join with us in providing these services. And we appreciate all of you who joined us today and look forward to seeing you next year. You can come back and see how we've done with some of our goals. So that will conclude our program today. Thank you so much.
And Mark, I would just like to say thank you to you, because as your new role as executive director, you have certainly accomplished quite a bit. I think you never stop. You're like the Energizer Bunny. So I thank you for all that you've done. And I thank Anne Marie for all the technology today so we could have our meeting. And for Kevin, who answered all our questions and got out all the flyers and things. And for all the staff, for all the volunteers, and for the board members that have been working together. And there's no I in team. And you're certainly everyone works together for the benefit of our seniors, the most vulnerable. So thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. And please visit our website and see what all of the programs and services are that we're providing.